everyone. My name is Padmini Nidumolu, and I'm the co-founder of Lean In Agile, an organization that was co-founded with LIA100 for women in lean and agile spaces. The main intent of this organization was to bring women together on a common platform where we can share, we can offer, we can seek from each other in a psychologically safe space. Because as we all know, when women support each other, incredible things can happen. It impacts our careers, our lives in a very positive way. And as part of this organization, an initiative was born in 2019 called LIA100. It's an effort to interview and bring narratives from 100 women across the world, and 100 among many. I like to say this because I know there are many, many awesome women out there in this space. This is a humble attempt to first bring 100 women, their narratives, their challenges, how they persisted and how they thrived through those challenges. And that narrative hopefully will impact someone somewhere out there and inspire them to be their best. So as part of that effort, today we have Karen with us, and she's from Berlin, Germany, and she's joining us, in a way that she can influence us positively and can share her story with all of us. Hi, Karen, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you? And thank you so much for having me, for
Absolutely.
inviting me.
Our pleasure, Karen. I know we can learn so much from you. I'll give a brief introduction about you to our audience and we can deep dive into the conversation. Okay. So, just a very high level introduction about Karen. I know she's a lot more than this, but Karen is a consultant, she's an author, and she's creator of Over the Fence, an international innovation community. She connects deep expertise in leadership and management to rethink organizational decision making and projects. She's unique in her offering of handbooks, toolkits, and very effective help for the organizations. Her motto, by the way, is simple but powerful, demystified and buzzword free. Karen connects superpowers of an experienced manager, learning designer, and business consultant with an agile mindset, design thinking, human centered leadership, and playful facilitation skills. That's awesome already, Karen. I can't wait to learn more. But as for the starters, can you share where you started and how you came into the lean and agile space, and what brought you here?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, actually. I need to think back years and years and years. And I think I founded my first company in the 90s, so in the age of 20. So I had, together with a friend, we founded a marketing agency, and I did my studies and everything at the same time. And I finished my studies eventually, some late 90s, and I started in e-learning, actually, as a consultant for e-learning, because that was what I have learned. It's like learning design for adults in organizations. And I started in 2000 in an e-learning company. And this is where I started to work with IT people and business people, and try to connect perspectives, because I discovered that when they are in the same room, communication is not always easy. But there was nothing about agile at this stage, but I was responsible for various projects in different kinds of organizations. First in Germany, and then we internationalized the company, and I worked across Europe. And I worked on different kinds of projects, so from large organizations to EU institutions to development cooperation projects. So there was a whole bunch and range of different projects, and that was really interesting and lots of learning. I quit this job in order to, in 2009, I was there for a very long time, and I was line manager there in the international public sector business. And then I was wondering, you know, what happens in organizations after a project is over? And I went into change, and I was curious about this agile thing that was around there, and did the Scrum Master and really experimented with design thinking, and leadership. Participatory leadership was also everything at the same time. And this started in 2009. And there's a really nice conference in Germany. It was called Playful Agile.
Huh?
And I think I started there, and it's also in other countries now, I think. And Deborah Hartmann-Preuss actually connected me and invited me there. So that was my first deep dive into the Agile community in 2009.
That's incredible.
And we played, and that was really awesome.
I'm sure.
And we also, at the same time, I'm part of the Art of Hosting community. I don't know if you have heard about that. It's a community of facilitators.
I see.
And at the same time, I was also active in this community. And a good friend from this community, Mary Alice Arthur, she is a story queen. So she does story work, and that's very, very powerful. And we played with a word. We called it plurk, like the connection of play and work. So how to make work, especially creative work. And sometimes it's really hard to stay in this zone of creativity. And if you play, it's a little bit easier to stay there. And for me, it was a mix of all those different approaches at this time.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. And what caught my attention was your introduction with the play for agile, right? The gains and the play part of it. Because I know in team building or even in organizational building, right, the games or the icebreakers hold a lot of significance. That's how you can really warm up to the teams and the teams warming up, among themselves. So I bet that was very valuable in your introduction, right, to the whole space.
Yes. Yes, and I also struggled a little bit with the agile games. I got to learn also in the Scrum training and whatsoever, because sometimes I have the feeling they are a little bit dogmatic or very populistic, so to say.
Yeah.
So if you use games to demonstrate something in a very populistic way, I get allergic. So what we did then also with our defense was trying to bring playful approaches, not just as a warm-up, but I love improv games for warm-ups, by the way, but also to work on the thing you have to work, just in a little bit different way, so that it's easier to connect with the content.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a little bit what also Over Defense is about. If you imagine that a project or any interdisciplinary venture is, you bring people who usually work in different gardens together to make a big party together. So they need to bring all their gifts from the different gardens. So they are different, they work in a different way, they use different tools. And the art is to invite people to create together, even though they think completely different, they use different tools, different ways of thinking. And this is what I find really interesting.
Wow. I was actually going to ask about Over the Fence, and I think you started on that. So let's go a little bit deeper into that, right? So it's about really bringing not necessarily similar people, disparate people, but seeing how they work together. Tell us a little bit more about what that means and how it can be adopted in a team environment.
Okay. The name Over the Fence actually came from, so I explained the metaphor a little bit. Around this time, so we founded Over the Fence in 2013.
Okay.
7 years ago. And after all those experiences with facilitation, design thinking, and leadership development, I always love to bring different things together. And Frank and I, my co-founder of Over the Fence is Frank Haberman. I also write books with him. He was asking the question, now you have discovered so many cool things, but where is our deep knowledge? So where do we have a true experience, a deep, long time experience? And we said, well, that's projects. So we run so many different projects, complex projects, interdisciplinary projects. And then we said, okay, what if we could change the way people approach projects in a way that they are more happy and successful? I know it sounds simple, but it was our mission. So like, what would make the life of people easier for projects? Yeah. And if we could only change one thing, what could that be? And with a glass of wine, we said, I actually said, imagine we could change the way people start projects. We imagine all people on a project would really work on the same project. Wouldn't that be nice? I have experienced it so often that people tell me something about the project and they all work on the same project, but you have the feeling they work on completely different projects. And so we created, as a first thing, we created a project canvas in 2014. Just a piece of paper, a projection screen of thought, and an invitation to have a conversation in an interdisciplinary team to create a shared understanding of this project. And this was the same time I was active in the Agile community, and I was people said, well, projects are bad. We do Agile now. And I said, you can do both. And yeah, that was the birth of Over the Fence. And once we had a project canvas, it explains a project in natural language. So what we tried, or our ambition, was to not use professional language in a way that it's excluding others.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have a language, and in communities of practice, you have languages others find kind of strange. But the thing in project is that you only have a few people who are trained in project management. And sometimes this is very complicated. So our other approach was also to make it easier. So many people work in projects. We have friends who are and talked with many actors. So when they create a movie, it's actually a big project and they have never done project management. So this is also the other aspect of Over the Fence, of bringing in leadership lessons or other discoveries from other disciplines.
That's very interesting.
And there is
so I think this can be a macro and a micro as far as I'm understanding, right? So the macro is, if you're looking at an organization as your panel, right, of consideration, you could probably use this to bring different work streams across the enterprise together. And in the same way, it can be used in a micro level within a team, because every individual team member comes with their own unique set of abilities, expertise. So I think it can be brought together there as well. So I really like the format because it can be used in a macro and a micro level very efficiently.
Yeah, actually, I understand the project as a thing, like a venture, a temporary organization, actually.
Right.
It has a beginning and has an end, and you bring people together in order to create something you don't have a process for in the organization. Like the novel things Like you need to bring people together from across silos, from across departments to create something which the company isn't made for.
Right.
So it's not the teams who work on their products. It's really that to change an organization, you need to bring people from different things together in order to create something that lasts, just as an example. And
Yeah.
we found projects are, so there is no general management available for it because it doesn't fit.
Mhm.
And it brings people together who usually do not work together like this.
Okay.
And you have all those team building stuff. You all have to do it in the project team, but you have to do it faster because the project team needs to be productive quickly.
Yeah. 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 I think that's the
This was
premise.
a field of interest for us. And I also love projects because I was hoping you can more easily change the culture of a project organization, like of the team. You don't have to change the whole organization. You can start in the smaller teams and they create their own culture.
Yeah. Because every team, every organization is unique in its own way. I think everyone has a North Star within the organization to ensure everybody is looking at that North Star in whatever practices they're adopting. But you're right, everybody is so unique in what they bring to the table. So a framework like this will be very effective, I can imagine. That's really good. And if you can share where this is available, if it's a free source, we would love to include that as part of this video, and we can make that available for our audience.
Let me have a look.
I see
We
that you're
actually
pulling
have,
out a lot of books.
yeah, you have like this, that's the English over the fence book,
Yeah.
which is focusing on the project canvas and gives stories like a little bit background, how people used it. We wrote this book not at the same time we invented the project canvas. The project canvas is available for free at the Over the Fence website. It's .com.de. Don't
Okay.
get confused. You can download all tools there for free. It was the best decision ever for us to create open source tools like Creative Commons. And you can even sell them if you like. So it's a free license. And we wrote the first book. I don't show you this book anymore. It was just a PDF. And we learned so much from the community, like feedback from people who used it. And we have learned together. And that was such a great gift. So that we could write this book 2 years ago with all the experience of people. So there are real experience of real people in there and not just ours. And the second book we wrote is called Project Design. And this is more, it's not a traditional project design, but it's visual tools. I also, it's colorful. You can just enjoy the pictures. This was the project canvas, by the way, but there are 23 other, it's not so good with the light, thinking tools to go deeper here and there in project design. There are sympathy maps also included there. So design thinking tools, but also other visual tools that help people create a shared understanding about the most tricky aspects of their projects.
No,
Agile games are in.
fantastic. Yeah, yeah. No, this is fantastic, right? Because no matter how many frameworks there are, and of course we have some established frameworks for communication, collaboration, and execution, right, of the initiatives. But to have the deep thinking and decision-making frameworks and wireframes like you showed will be just incredibly valuable.
Yeah. It's also kind of a combination of traditional good project management knowledge and agile approaches
Yeah.
and positive change as well. So we have in the project design book, there are some instruments you probably know, and we just gave a little twist to it.
Mm.
Like there is like a normal stakeholder metrics for project communication. we have combined with dream headlines to just look at the most important people, like the people with the most influence and interest on the project. And we say, okay, just imagine this person, not the target group, just always imagine people, real people. And if you wonder, like, if this project was a success, what would be a great news, a headline of a great news for this person in the newspaper about the
Wow,
project?
that's very
And
nice.
people start to think like, and this is the human-centered approach as well. They start thinking, wow, we do this for people. We don't do projects for organizations. There is someone who has to live with the result. And this could have a positive or negative impact on him. And you can even write or think of a dream headline for someone whose life will not change for the better. And you can still have the empathy and think what would be the best way for this person. Yeah, what would the best experience be for them?
Yeah, no, I really like that. I mean, I personally would love to explore, what you just said, because it's almost like empathy mapping, right? You're empathizing with the end user, and how would you do
Yeah.
it? And of course, there are many ways to do it, the design thinking or empathy mapping. But you're so right. If you really have to define the impact.
Yeah. So, and this is kind of like support of the agile community, so that, but we also, the target group, like people in projects, they don't need to work like in an agile way. We want to reach everyone with those tools to twist their thinking a little bit. And yeah.
Awesome. No, this is very refreshing, to be honest. I think you're not just an author, but you're also a very critical thinker in terms of how to really bring out the best, in the organizations and in the teams. And yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, we are creating these books, and I don't do this alone. My work is very often to be in organizations and do something like communication, good communication for projects within the project team, but also within the organization. And this is type of a communication that always changes the project. So I don't just write nice news or things. I ask people why. Why is it important to them? And so it triggers different ways of thinking.
Yeah, I'm sure. Talking about the method of writing books or the inspiration to author, I know you have co-authored these books and you've collaborated with the other authors. And I know many women who want to express themselves, right? It could be just a simple post on LinkedIn or communicating or just putting themselves out there. But I see a lot of apprehension, especially in women. They want to be perfect. They want to know it all before they can go and express part of their thoughts. I think it's just the
Yeah.
way most women are made. What do you have to say or share to these women who are great and who have the experience and expertise in their own right, but are apprehensive to bring it out in the open and share it with the community? How did you do it? Maybe we can start there.
Wow. First annotation on all books, my name is second. And
Ah,
that's not because I'm the woman. It's because I'm just the co-author, because I'm actually not so good in writing. I would never ever sit there and write a whole book. I just was able to do that because I did it together with Frank. And he is the professor, by the way, and he is the writer of us. So first tip, look for talents, for your own talents, but maybe you are more a crazy person like me who's chaotic and unstructured and would never ever be able to do this linear writing and a whole book. Other people can help you. And I would never have done this. But there is another aspect there. For our new book, actually, it's the third one, I have to show it. It's in German, but it's called Hey, Not So Fast. We have interviewed CEOs, leaders from companies before about decision making. This is about decision making, not about projects. And the crazy thing was, we didn't find women.
Wow.
I know that there are so many women who are skilled, of course.
Yeah.
But to have the time and spend time and do interviews and stuff like this, they were just too busy.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I'm struggling also with the postings, by the way. I know I have to do this because like I need to create also some visibility to books. I'm not the best person to do this, but I'm just keep on trying, and yeah, I think it gets better over time.
And I love the the statement you made, right? You don't have to know it all. You don't have to do it all, right? There are other
You can't know it all.
yeah, there are other fantastic people who can collaborate with you. So it is not that you have to kind of write the entire book or even conceptualize the entire book. And there is so much you can do with collaboration, right? I think that's what you have done so beautifully, Karen. I should congratulate you. And your thoughts are in there in the book, and your expertise and your experiences in the book, but in a very subtly integrated manner with the other partners that you have partnered with.
Frank would say he could never ever have written those books without me and all the crazy ideas I was challenging his more traditional way of management thinking. And he has learned, so it was a great learning process also if you do this together, because two brains are better than one brain.
Better than one brain, right?
Especially different brains.
Different brains. Yes. And all of us are different.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not always easy,
yes.
but the result is better.
Absolutely. No, that's a very valuable advice you have right there. And you have done it, you've proven it. So I'll be looking forward to reading your other books as well as your new one, Hey, Not So Fast. It's all about slow decision making, slow thinking.
Yes. So the new one is only in German. The other two books are in English. This one we even wrote in English, and this one was then translated because we wrote it in German first. But because we have learned so much from the international community, we simply had to do the effort, and we did it on our own to do the translation. So we had a translator for that. It's a different English. So for me, it's like books in many languages are not easy. And here we have a publishing house, and last week we had to make a video about it in English, not yet ready, because the publishing house is looking for licensed partners to create an English version.
That is fantastic, Karen. This in itself is so inspiring to the community and to me personally. There's so much that you've done, collaborating, and that's the true Agile way to really realize your dreams. So congratulations. And as we wrap up, oh my God, I've learned so much in this interview. As we wrap up, is there any message or anything that you would like to share with our audience? It could be just a word, it could be just a phrase, something that you live by. Now we are getting into
something I would love to share with the community. Yeah. Actually, I'm curious to learn about you. Because when I heard about your initiative and the 100 women, like what motivated me to be here is I want to get to know you.
That's very humbling, and it's a pleasure to share about me, right? I mean, it's not an individual. Again, just like you said, I think this initiative is so successful only because we have the community. If we didn't have 100 women who said yes to these interviews, we wouldn't have brought so many narratives. But my background itself is, in fact, I go back to project management and program management as a very strong background that I come from. And I stumbled upon Agile in 2007, end of 2007. And there was no looking back because I simply love communicating and collaborating with people on an iterative basis, right? Which is why I think there was a starking difference in my mind between project management and the Agile way of implementing things. It's because you can be iterative, and Agile Manifesto itself emphasizes on face-to-face interactions, and I thrive in them. I learn so much from them. So there was no looking back since I came into this field, and I have met so many fantastic people, men and women, and I learned so much from them. And when I first wanted to do something and give back to the community, there was no better initiative than Lean and Agile, because this is not just a meetup group, but it is also about a group that can come together on a cadence. The group really teaches itself, because there is so much collective intelligence and wisdom within that group to make everybody in it equally strong. And I was always passionate about interviewing people, knowing their stories and bringing them back to the community. Because just like, you talked to me today and you're talking to our audience today, there's so much that we learn in these 20-25 minutes that we are with you. And cumulatively, 100 people, you can imagine the breadth of knowledge that we can bring to the community. So that's the story behind why I started this.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
That's
people like you.
That's just wonderful initiative. And maybe you get curious about rethinking projects again.
Yeah. Yes. And again, right, I always said this, it's not a bad thing to have a project, right? I think, its relevance varies by each organization. And in some organizations, maybe, that particular initiative needs a definitive start and definitive end with a definite budget. So be it. I think it is what works for your business, for your organization. Nothing is essentially great or bad. I think it is what is relevant to you and your customer base. I think that backdrop, that context is very critical before we can write off a particular framework. But thank you so much, Karen. Sorry, you were saying something?
Thank you.
Thank you. And, we really hope, the frameworks and the ideas that you've put in your books will be helpful and valuable to the community. And thank you so much for your time today. This was just great. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.